In this lesson, we will discuss 4 ways you can begin to outsmart threat actors. Attackers are everywhere, and they are always out to get you, especially if you or your organization have something of interest, like sensitive information, digital assets, or simply resources that can be stolen. If you find that you are always reacting instead of focusing on a proactive defense, you will be missing out on a lot of valuable information and always be operating in a reactionary mode. Instead, to really increase your cyber resilience, you must be more proactive by understanding and countering threat actors through a continuous process. One of the most effective ways to learn from the different threat actors that are attacking your network is to set up and utilize deception and disruption technologies like honeypots, honeynets, honeyfiles, and honey tokens to log, monitor, and track threat actors so that we can learn about their tactics, techniques, and procedures. Now, the collection of tactics, techniques, and procedures used by a given threat actor are usually referred to as a type of adversary or a threat actor's TTPs. Tactics, techniques, and procedures, or TTPs, refer to the specific methods and patterns of activities or behaviors associated with a particular threat actor or group of threat actors. These TTPs present how a given adversary operates and can be used by your cybersecurity professionals to detect, mitigate, and counter the attacker's cyber threats. But how can cybersecurity researchers and professionals learn the different tactics, techniques, and procedures used by each different type of threat actor? That is where deception and disruption technologies get implemented within our enterprise networks. Deception and disruption technologies are designed to mislead, confuse, and divert attackers away from critical assets while simultaneously detecting and neutralizing threats. By creating a dynamic environment or presenting false information, these technologies can delay and deter adversaries, giving organizations an upper hand in identifying and countering malicious activities. The 4 commonly used deception and disruption technologies are honeypots, honeynets, honeyfiles, and honey tokens. First, we have honeypots. A honeypot is a decoy system or network set up to attract potential hackers. Honeypots are used to mimic a real system with vulnerabilities that seem attractive to attackers. The primary purpose of a honeypot is not to block or prevent attacks, but is instead focused on gathering information about the attacker's methods, motives, and TTPs. These honeypots can also be used against insider threats to detect internal fraud, snooping, and malpractice, and they can be configured to work as an actual network or simulated network using an emulation application. Our honeypots are designed to log all interactions and transactions in order to provide valuable insights into the threat landscape. These honeypots are critical to helping cybersecurity researchers identify the new types of attacks, malware, and other threats being seen on the internet before they become a widespread problem for our enterprise networks. If you are going to install a honeypot on your enterprise network, you should locate it within a screened subnet of the network or an isolated segment of the network that can be easily accessed over the internet by a potential attacker. Second, we have honeynets. A honeynet is essentially a network of honeypots to create a more complex system that is designed to mimic an entire network of systems, including servers, routers, and switches. Honeynets are often used by large organizations and research institutions to study the behavior of threat actors in a more controlled environment. Like a honeypot, a honeynet logs all activities to provide us with a wealth of data about both the successful and unsuccessful attacks being attempted against our network, so that we can reveal patterns in the attack vectors to help our security teams develop a more effective defense to counteract new TTPs being observed in the honeynet. When you think about honeypots and honeynets, I want you to remember that while they can both be used to help your organization improve its security systems, there is a risk that the attacker could use the honeynet and its honeypots to learn how your production systems are also configured, which makes this a double-edged sword when implemented as a part of your security architecture. Third, we have honeyfiles. A honeyfile is a decoy file placed within a system to lure in potential attackers. A honeyfile should appear to contain valuable or sensitive information that will entice a threat actor to go after the data. But in reality, it serves as a trap and contains fake data and hidden metadata or digital watermarks in the file to attempt to enumerate the attacker's own network. When an attacker accesses the honey file, an alert is triggered that notifies the security team of the intrusion, and some honey files have embedded code that allows them to begin enumerating the attacker's network once the file is open on a computer connected to their attack network. When it comes to honey files, these can be created using any type of file you want, including word processing documents, spreadsheets, presentation files, images, database files, or even executables. These honey files are typically embedded with unique identifiers or watermarks to help track the file if it is stolen or copied, and are usually placed under loose or less strict defenses than files that contain actual sensitive data might have. Fourth and finally, we have honey tokens. A honey token is a piece of data or a resource that has no legitimate value or use but is monitored for access or use. A honey token could be a fake user account, a bogus URL, or a dummy database record. If the honey token is accessed or used, this is a clear indication that a security breach is likely occurring. Honey tokens are particularly useful for detecting insider threats. Since they have no legitimate use, any interaction with them is suspicious. For example, you may create a user account called admin or root on a Windows system, and if someone tries to log in with that account, you know that they are attacking you since no legitimate user would ever log into that account since it was only created to be used as a honey token. These honey tokens can also help with the identification of any data leak pathways and provide us with an early warning of a potential data breach. In addition to the deceptive technologies we covered of honeypots, honeynets, honey files, and honey tokens, we also could use some disruption technologies and strategies to help secure our enterprise networks, like using bogus DNS entries, creating decoy directories, generating dynamic pages to slow down web crawlers, using port triggering to hide services, and spoofing fake telemetry data during a detected network scan. First, we have bogus DNS entries. Bogus DNS entries are fake domain name system entries introduced into your system DNS server. By adding these deceptive entries, administrators can mislead attackers into accessing non-existent domains or trap systems to waste the attacker's time and resources while simultaneously alerting the defenders about potential malicious activities. Second, we can create decoy directories to disrupt the attackers. Decoy directories are fake folders and files placed within a system's storage. When an unauthorized user attempts to access or modify these directories, the system can raise an alert, and the attacker is misled by false data and made to think that they have successfully gained access to your organization's genuine resources. Third, we have dynamic page generation. By generating dynamic pages, websites can present ever-changing content to web crawlers to confuse and slow down the threat actor. This tactic can be especially effective against automated scrapping tools or bots trying to index or steal content from your organization's website. Fourth, we have the use of port triggering to hide services. Port triggering is a security mechanism where specific services or ports on a network device remain closed until a specific outbound traffic pattern is detected. Once the pattern is observed, the service or port is opened temporarily. This method ensures that certain services remain invisible and inaccessible to potential attackers scanning for open ports, but become available for legitimate users when needed. Fifth, we have spoofing fake telemetry data. When a system detects a network scan is being attempted by an attacker, it can be configured to respond by sending out fake telemetry or network data. This data can be used to confuse an attacker and make it more challenging for them to understand the network's real layout and prevent them from being able to identify genuine vulnerabilities in your systems. For example, if my system detected that you were running a network against it, it might report that I'm using Windows 11 instead of the macOS system I'm really using. This way, if you're trying to use a Windows 11 exploit against my system, it would fail because I'm not actually running Windows, but your scan was tricked into believing I was, since I sent back the fake telemetric data. So remember, deceptive and disruptive technologies refer to a set of tools and strategies designed to mislead potential attackers and hinder their malicious activities within a system or network, such as honeypots, honeynets, honey files, and honey tokens. A honeypot is a decoy system set up to lure cyber attackers, allowing defenders to study their actions without any real-world consequences. Similarly, A honeynet is an entire network of such deceptive systems that mimic a real-world environment to attract and analyze attackers' behaviors. A honey file is a decoy file that appears to be genuine data, but is really just a watermarked file that can be used to detect unauthorized access. Lastly, a honey token is a digital entity, such as the fake password or user credential, that when used triggers an alarm signaling a potential security breach. These technologies allow organizations to lure in threat actors, learn their TTPs, and then develop more effective countermeasures. While these tools do not replace traditional security measures, they add an extra layer of defense by turning the tables on attackers and allowing us to hunt them and remove them from our networks.